I felt guilty for feeling okay and for being okay, because I really was. I nannied for my sister before, and so I had experience with newer babies. And so I mean, never a girl, so that was different. Was,
Oh, right.
Girl parts are different. So, like, that aspect, and the fact that I was breastfeeding my own child. So, a struggle I did have is not so much a heavy, like, mental struggle, is that my daughter had a tongue tie. And so we successfully breastfed from the first time that we did skin to skin in the recovery room. She latched on. And we did that. But with her tongue tie, it was gums for the first 24 days of her life. And that was the only thing that really, like, was a struggle until we had it fixed.
Right.
So we were able to, with little babies, they're able to just use, like, a little laser and release their tongue. And after that, we were good. Like, so I struggled with a little bit of nipple pain. I can say nipple, right? Yeah. Nipple pain because... Too late. So, but there's things that help with that. And that was the struggle. That was the struggle I had in the beginning, was she had a tongue tie. And we've had that fixed. And then we were good. Like, we were good. She was also very easy. Aside from that, like, she was really easy. We didn't have to deal with a lot. I had some overproduction of milk for a while. And then I think the first really big thing that happened to me was I got dehydrated when she was 5-6 months old. I got dehydrated, and for a few days I could barely pump an ounce of milk, and she would try to latch on and she would cry, and I didn't talk to anybody about it. I called my mom crying because I was so upset about it, and she tried, she's like, well, stop crying, because that's more water leaving your body, which is true.
I can hear your mom saying that.
Which is true. And I'm like, I don't know how to stop crying. And luckily, I had overproduced for all the way up until then. So I had a lot in the freezer. And so we did all of the things that I read online, and
cookies.
And I knew about the stuff from when you went through it, from when you had to stop. But the things that you tried before that, and you had given me the supplements and things already, so I had those.
The body armors.
Yep, body armors are fantastic breastfeeding moms.
Yep.
And I did all of that stuff, and my husband was so supportive. He was so supportive. My mom and my sister were as well. So, yes, you were very supportive the entire time. Yes, but those first couple of days, I didn't call you.
Yeah.
Because it was so close to when, like, it wasn't that close, but it was still, like, it hadn't been that long since you had
stopped. Our
kids
kids are only a few months apart.
Yeah, that it hadn't been that long for you, and I didn't want to, like, re-upset you, and then I was so upset about it that I didn't want to unload it all, and so that's why I really just talked to my mom and my sister.
I get it. Oh, yeah, no, I understand. And so when you did message me and you did finally say something about it, I was just like, it's fine. It's going to come back. You're doing all the right things. You're doing everything that you can do, which is what you're supposed to say to moms that are struggling with things like this. And, I think I told you all the things that I knew, which I probably had already told you 100 times. But it was just, it's hard. And it's really hard when you don't have the right people in your ear.
And I think for me it was so emotional because it was so sudden. And part of it was thinking about, when yours went away, at least you had time to, mentally prepare, kind of. I know when it stopped, it's still, there's still emotions there.
But I'd already been struggling.
Right.
It's different. No, I understand. It's different.
That was my biggest so far. Oh, and my daughter is 1. She just turned 1 a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we are still breastfeeding.
Yep.
Now, I do not overproduce anymore. Since it came back that time, back in when she was 6 months old, I do not overproduce anymore. She gets what she needs, and that's kind of it. But yeah, that was hard. That was really hard. And you can read things.
Sure.
You can read things, but for that, I don't think anything prepares you, because we were okay on Sunday, and Monday morning she nursed, and then when we went 2 hours later, when we went to nurse again, she latched, and then she came off and cried, and nothing.
Yeah.
It was like so sudden. So that was really hard. And then at the end of that really hard week, we got into a car accident. So that's my next struggle, is we got into a car accident, and I was injured, and that was hard. That was the struggle. That's been the biggest struggle, and that all happened in the same week, and I couldn't pick my baby up for 3 weeks. Like, Mike would have to get her out of the bed for me in the morning, and for her naps, we would lay in the bed together because I could not put her in her crib. I could not lift her out of the crib. That is when I needed help, and I did have help. I had friends that helped out. No, I mean, I didn't have somebody every day, but you know, I did have help, and I had support. But like that, I feel like that, I don't know, that might be when I kind of got over the feeling guilty, actually. It may have been when that happened.
That makes perfect sense, though.
I finally needed people to help me, and it made me, I didn't feel guilty about needing help then. I was a little angry about it.
Well, yeah.
You know, but yeah, maybe that's when that happened.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was that long ago. I
It
feel
was
like
that long ago?
you just
Yeah.
messaged me about it like 2 weeks ago, you know? That's crazy.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 6 months ago that happened, and like there was a long recovery from that because she also was we were rear-ended, so she had she went through treatments too because the force, she had some compression in her lower spine and in her hips, and but she's perfect now. She's great. We went through that. We're both better, but those were like my biggest struggles so far, and yeah. I'm also a stay-at-home mom. I don't think I mentioned that before. My job, 3 months before she was born, approached me about, when you come back from maternity leave, we would like for you to go into the manager development program, which is what I've always wanted.
Right.
I've always wanted that validation that I'm good at something. But it was too late, because at that point in time, mentally, I didn't know that I didn't know if I wanted to go back to work or not. I didn't, because this is something people don't talk about. I didn't know if I could afford to go back to work, because daycare is expensive. Hello, like super expensive. And it when I was on maternity leave and we crunched the numbers, my current salary was not enough to we would have health insurance, sure, but that'd be it, because every dime would go to somebody else watching my child instead of me, so that I could go to work. I could work I could work for somebody else to watch my child, and so we would have health insurance. That's it. Because I didn't want to be a manager anymore. Because the thought of not being able to have a set schedule, because I worked for a food service provider at a university, so you're not guaranteed the times that you want, because college kids have to eat at all times of the day, and I also wasn't going to be guaranteed to be able to stay at my university that I was at. So the idea of having to go somewhere else to go through training in another state for several weeks and then not be sure of what time of day or how long I was going to be able to see my baby, my new baby that was going to be here soon. Like, I didn't want that anymore. And I always thought that I would because I always wanted to have a career. And I guess that was like a really harsh reality for me. And we talked about it a lot. And at the end of my leave, I resigned. And I have been home with her ever since. And I do not regret it at all. I have come to realize over the last month, though, that I do really miss the interaction of going to work every day. But I would not trade any of it to go back to work. Not right now. Maybe one day.
Sure.
Maybe one day I'll go back, or do something else, or, but right now I am where I need to be. And I am just very fortunate that I have friends that are like, hey, you want to go to lunch today? Yes, I do want to go to lunch today. Because part of not wanting to be a stay-at-home mom before is that I like to
go do things.
And so we did things. That was one of the reasons that I was like, I'm like, when I didn't have a difficult recovery, we went and had lunch. We went and visited Daddy at work. We rode mass transit. We went and saw other people. Like, we went to the mall. We did all kinds of things. We went on trips with Daddy, but we did all kinds of things. And that is part of what has made being a stay-at-home mom easy, I think, for me, is that I'm not just at home all the time. The hardest part of being a stay-at-home mom so far has been after our car accident, because I was home all the time.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't pick. I had to take her inside in our stroller in her carrier, because she's still in the little infant carrier, right? So I would have to, with the arm that wasn't injured, I would have to like pull her out of the car and straight onto the stroller so that I could roll her into the apartment, versus being able to just pick her up and take her inside. Or when we had to go to the doctor's appointments, it was a struggle to pick her up and put her straight into the stroller and then go inside.
Yeah.
So overall, so far in our journey, it's been good, but I felt guilty about it for part of it, is because, you should never make people feel guilty about being okay. Yeah. There are so many moms that struggle with depression, and maybe they don't feel connected to their child as much, or they're not able to breastfeed like they want to or they hoped to, and you should never make them feel guilty, ever. That is my advice to any mom out there, or dad or grandma or anybody, is don't make people feel guilty about any of it, because the thing that we need the most is support and positivity.
Yeah.
Even when things are good, maybe they're not. Looking back on it, I'm sure there are times that I was like, I probably needed somebody to talk to, because that is part of being a stay-at-home mom, is that you don't always get to go out and do things. Yeah. And, when after the accident and I couldn't do things around the house, I had to rely on other people to help me do them. That sucks. But really, stay-at-home moms need friends. Working moms need friends. We all need support and encouragement, regardless of what you're going through. And please don't ever make anybody feel guilty about anything that they're doing. That is one of the worst things you can do, especially for a new mom. Make them feel guilty about anything. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. For me, I think the thing that I least expected was to not was to feel like it wasn't real for so long. We waited so long for that moment, and I just thought that as soon as we found out, my heart would just explode, and I would just feel so much joy every day and be like, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. But I didn't. It took a really long time to know, and like, it took a long time to not be afraid that I wouldn't be pregnant. To realize that it was real life and it wasn't a dream. Because for so long, until we found out it was a girl, like I said, and until I could feel her moving, really feel her moving. It didn't feel real. And I was not prepared for that feeling at all. Like I just knew that I was just going to be so excited, and I was. But I am the eternal optimist. It annoys her so much. But I am the eternal optimist. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't. I just was nothing. And what was also weird was that I'm crying right now. I'm such an emotional person by nature that, and I think that's probably the thing that my husband was most unprepared for, was that I cried maybe 3 or 4 times when I was pregnant. I was so just stone. And I don't know that it's because I just didn't, I don't know if it's because that I was just, however, about not being optimistic or whatever, but it was, I wasn't emotional. I didn't cry all the time. I cry more now that she's out. Like, you're supposed to have that hormone spike, that there's so many hormones running through your body that you just, a puppy, breathes on you, and you're like, oh my god, it's puppy breath. Yeah, no, I didn't have that. I really didn't. Like, and so that's what I was not prepared for, was not just exploding with, I'm pregnant. I wasn't prepared to not feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You spend your whole life like waiting for that. You just assume it's going to be like it is everywhere else for everybody else.
Yeah. And I'm sure down the road when we talk about other topics, I'm sure that you guys will get to a little more insight and probably why I felt that way. But that's a much longer story for a much later time. So for me, it would be that it's okay to be okay. It's okay to not feel guilty because you don't feel the same way that other people do. That can go either way. For me, I felt guilty that I was okay, that I didn't need help, and so many people would probably be really excited about that, but I just, I felt guilty about it. And you don't have to feel guilty. It is okay to feel whatever you were feeling, like, it's okay. You are okay. That's what I wish I would have heard.
Yeah.
And what I tell my friends, I definitely have other friends who have had babies, who were pregnant. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've told them, is that it's okay to feel whatever you were feeling. Everything is not the same for everybody. It's however you're feeling, it's okay to feel that way. because everything is going to be okay, and you're going to do the right thing, and you're going to be a great mom. It's okay. That's my advice. But that's who we are.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about, and there's so much more to us, and our moms that are going to join us here.
For sure.
But so we hope that you liked this video, and if you did, please hit the like button below. And if this is something that you're into, subscribe. Hit the bell. We have a lot of videos coming up that are going to be so good. Not that we're biased, but like they're going to be so good, and we hope that you will be part of our village and you will follow us. We're on all of the social medias. The links are below. We post every day. Yeah, we want you to be here with us, and we hope you would like to be here with us too. So I guess we will see you next time. Yeah. Bye.